Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds back again, kicking off the 2021 rookie wide receiver class. We got so much to talk about to kick off with what most people consider the number one Dynasty rookie wide receiver. Maybe we consider him number one as well. We got to talk about the Sam Darnold trade in this episode.
Big trade.
So much to talk about. Some guys that you might not know.
Austin Watkins.
Some guys you might know.
Some guys that I don't think will even make an NFL roster.
Uh-oh. We'll have to find out who that is.
Ready, set, hut, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson.
I'm Matt O'Hara.
And I'm Garrett Price.
And we have got a lot to talk about today. We got some news to talk about. We got some sponsors to talk about. And we got a lot of wide receivers to talk about. And now that we've dove into the receivers, right? We've already talked about the running backs. We've talked about the quarterbacks. We've talked about the tight end. I'm seeing a little bit more clarity about how my Dynasty rookie rankings are going to shape up. I mean, it's really clearly looking to me you should go running back, 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Or
in standard leagues, right? No, one QB leagues.
not in Superflex league, it's quarterback.
Right.
Running back.
running back. But I would say this. After watching all these receivers, so not all of the receivers, but from the receivers at this standpoint, I would 100% take Kyle Pitts over every one of these receivers. Every one of them I would take Kyle Pitts over. I would also feel comfortable enough taking Kyle Pitts in a 1 QB PPR league as high as I'd be okay with 2. Honestly, I'd be okay with 2.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And I know, like our producer Jared said, even at tight end, yes, even at tight end, because he's a difference maker. Like I said, where would you take Travis Kelce if he was in this rookie draft and he was 21 years old, right? Where would you take Darren Waller in his prime at 21 years old? Where, obviously George Kittle.
The weird part is, though, when you look at Kittle, Kelce, and Waller, none of those guys were like super high prospects.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So, like, that's the weird part about this is
I think that's what makes everyone nervous about
I think that's what's making me nervous, too, is like,
don't be nervous.
everything looks right. Like, everything is shaping up to be exactly what you're saying.
This is, and I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter.
makes me
I usually don't write back on Twitter. And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people I respect, and a lot of people I'm friendly with and I like. And a lot of them are saying, well, what about all these other tight ends? What about this guy and this guy and this guy? That's all hogwash because none of those guys are in the same level as Kyle Pitts. He is an outlier. So I'm just saying I'd take him as high as number 2 overall and be comfortable with it. In a Superflex tight end premium league, I would take him right after the quarterbacks.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
As high as 4. But if you want to take Javonte, if you want to take Etienne, if you want to take Najee, I'm never going to argue taking a running back there.
Sure.
Definitely because a lot of my sources are saying the running back class next year is not as strong.
Your sources?
You guys. My Debbie guys. My Debbie guys are my sources.
I was really curious as to who your sources were.
Not pointing any elbows.
Okay, my Debbie guys. I mean, what are my sources? My Debbie guys, the guys I talked to, the guys in the know.
I feel like Shefty now. So,
it changes
cool.
daily. And I'm definitely after that, though, after those 4 guys, right? The 3 running backs and the tight end, all receivers.
For days.
Because there's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot of wide receivers.
And what's crazy is when we had our pre-meeting here before the podcast, we all have a consensus number 1.
Yep.
Which is a surprise.
Which is not the consensus number 1 in the community.
It is not.
But before we get into all this news, including the Sam Darnold trade, which is not shocking, but
it happened.
But
pleasantly delightful.
Kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Then he went to Carolina.
I mean, I think the landing spot was a little bit out of left field, but they need a quarterback. They probably
Hold
weren't
your
going to
ponies.
Sorry, go ahead.
Nerd. We got some stuff to talk about. Before we get into all of that, let me tell you about Dynasty Depot. That's right, dynastydepot.com. Right now, using a promo code NERDS, you can get their yearly subscription for $14.99. Now, you might be asking yourself, Rich, handsome man over there, what am I signing up for $14.99? What is Dynasty Depot? Dynasty Depot is a website that's going to allow you to buy and sell FFPC teams in leagues like you're on eBay, right? You could bid on teams. You could buy a $1,000 team for $100 and get into a $1,000 league for $100 and then revamp that boy and then resell it. It literally gives you an opportunity to flip Dynasty teams and buy Dynasty teams at your leisure. FFPC, if you don't know, it's a high-stakes fantasy football Dynasty league, tight end premium, not super flex. And what it is it's a very safe way to play Dynasty because they've never had a league fold. And what they're going to do is you're going to go on there, and they have leagues from $77 up to $1,500 to join a league for a year. So this gives you an opportunity to go in and draft a team and then sell it for profit whenever you like. Or it lets you go into buy a team at a discount and rebuild it and then either win or sell it for a profit. Or what you could do is you could buy a team that you think is absolutely going to win that league, buy it, go into that year, try and win the league, profit, then sell the team. There's so many opportunities here at Dynasty Depot, and I encourage all our listeners and all our viewers to go to dynastydepot.com, use that promo code NERDS, and get on there, get that huge discount for $14.99, and start bidding on some teams. Or sign up at FFPC and start selling some teams. And you can look at all the teams for sale on Dynasty Depot right now, dynastydepot.com right now. You don't have to just pay this and then go in and see what's there and be like, oh, there's nothing I like. You can go look at the teams for sale first and then sign up and buy the teams. There's no tricks. There's no trickery here. I love it. I signed up. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And yes, I paid my own money. They didn't give me a sign up for free because it is what it is. So get on there now, dynastydepot.com. Promo code NERDS, $14.99. Check it out and make yourself a better Dynasty player today by having more leagues, which is makes me better.
Flip this house, fantasy edition, right?
Oh, yeah. Let's
There
get
you
it.
go.
Yeah.
So now, Matt, let the ponies roam.
The ponies went in, man. They're done. I don't know.
I got two different pony impressions. I'm not feeling either of them.
Let's hear yours.
No, 'cause I'm not going to embarrass myself. I don't even get embarrassed, but I know my limitations. Like, I'm not going to go try and play basketball. I'm not trying to make pony impressions.
I loved some of the tweets showing Richard slamming the ball down. What's his name?
Stanley, yeah.
Stanley from The Office.
Oh,
That was good.
I saw that tweet.
Are you kidding me?
Make fun of me all you want. Don't carry it in the least bit. I'm the one that told you guys this. I have no
That's true.
shame in my game.
Yes.
I have strengths.
You have no game in your game either. So
I have no
That
game
is
in my
also
game.
true.
Yeah. Now, if you want to talk about chess, I'll play some chess. Strong game.
There you go.
Beat chess, take you all out. Well, everybody at this table at least. I don't know about anybody out there. I'm not the best in the world, but pretty strong.
Anyway, getting back to this.
Talking about chess moves.
Samuel Darnold.
Sam Darnold. Yep.
No, let's talk about me. It's the Rich Dotson show.
Rich, tell us all about your chess escapades.
Biggest complaint about Dynasty Nerds podcast. That Rich guy talks too much. Sorry. Says Rich is the host in the beginning. Too late.
Too late. He's got a green light.
So Sam Darnold gets traded to the Carolina Panthers. Goes for a second, a fourth, and a sixth. Now, to me,
Second and fourth are next year.
2022.
2020.
correct.
Yeah,
Which is a pretty good haul for them for a quarterback that everybody knows they want to get rid of.
Right.
And we got to remember, Sam Darnold's only 23 years old. Did he look good in New York? No. Did anybody look good in New York? No. Has anybody besides Peyton Manning ever looked good under Adam Gase?
No.
The answer here is no. So,
And to be fair, Peyton Manning wasn't under Adam Gase. Adam Gase was under Peyton Manning.
That's very true.
Bottom. So, if I saw a tweet the other day, and I kind of agree 100%, where it said if Joe Brady turns around Sam Darnold, makes him look good, Adam Gase should never be allowed in an NFL stadium again. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good tweet because I agree 100%. Get that turd out of here.
I mean, obviously he's got nowhere to go, I think, but kind of up.
Yeah.
We've seen other players kind of flourish after they got out from underneath Adam Gase. So hopefully, obviously, he's a young enough player. There's quarterbacks coming into the draft this year that I think are older than Sam Darnold. So
Definitely receivers in this draft older than Sam Darnold.
yes, there are.
Definitely a running back.
Which one?
Najee.
Is he?
Oh, he's like almost 24.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, he's got a really smart offensive coordinator in Joe Brady, who's most likely going to be a head coach in 2022, if I had to guess. Worst case scenario, 2023. Really innovative young head coach. They got Matt Rule. And you got to imagine Sam Darnold instantly has 1,000 passing yards right out the gate just from Christian McCaffrey. Right out the gate. Like,
Just dump it off. Here you go.
Here you go. Okay, 980, 950. But you got about 1,000 yards from Christian McCaffrey.
And I think
right
the
out
important thing is that they're picking really high still. They're 8th overall. They didn't have to give up that pick in order to get Sam Darnold, so they can still go out and get a nice piece. They could get a Kyle Pitts if he slips to 8.
Kyle Pitts won't be at 8.
They could, though. Can you imagine that?
They could, but he won't be there.
I think if Atlanta stays put, I think they're taking him at 4.
Why wouldn't you take it? First of all, if Mac Jones go 3rd overall, like they said, Atlanta would be absolutely foolish not to take Justin Fields. One, Two,
great there.
if they're not taking Justin Fields, they'd be absolutely foolish not to trade the pick and get a haul and then take somebody.
Sure.
Like
That's the thing. If quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4, Kyle Pitts could be there at 8 because it's also
conceivable.
There's also defensive players that are on the board as well, and other offensive players that aren't skill players.
It is a little more shallow defensive draft though. So
is.
I mean, I think most of the top 10 will be offense.
I think 9 out of 10 at least will be offensive players.
It's
Whether it be
definitely
offensive
possible.
linemen, with Puel and Slater could potentially be in there. Besides that, then you got Pitts, Jamar Chase.
The only
Devontae
ones
Smith.
that like maybe you can get like Micah Parsons might go top 10.
He's super athletic.
Maybe
but I've
one
heard
of the
there's some off-field
corners.
I was
questions
gonna say
about
there's
Micah
always a
Parsons.
corner
So,
that gets dropped in
Yeah,
there.
Patrick Surtain
Yep.
or Surtain.
J.C. Horn.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, but this is Sam Darnold,
Anyway.
Dynasty Fans Football. We're not Mel Kiper.
We don't care
We're
about
not
defense.
Daniel Jeremiah.
I'm just letting
We're-
you know it could happen, and that would be
Saying there's a
mouthwatering.
chance.
Yep.
So Sam Darnold right now, before we get into these receivers, we got a lot
Boost
to
up.
talk about. Big boost, super flex leagues. I would love an opportunity. They picked up his 5th-year option, so you're getting 2 years out of Sam Darnold in this offense, which has DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey. They're going to add potentially another playmaker here. Even if they go offensive line, they go Slater
That'd be
or
great.
Puel. That even helps them even more. I think I would love an opportunity for me personally to buy Sam Darnold here for like a late first in a super flex.
Flurst.
I was gonna say super flex and I said first. A super flurst.
A super flurst. No, I'm interested in DJ Moore too because between the departure of Curtis Samuel and hopefully a little bit of an upgrade in quarterback, that could be very good news for DJ Moore.
DJ Moore's just good news all around. I love that guy.
What does this do for the Jets players in your guys' mind? Anything?
Yeah, Zach Wilson, baby, coming in.
I think it's going to be what you get with most rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It's going to be up and down season, and you'll have some of those weeks where it's great, and
Yeah,
other
what about
weeks
the
where
offensive
it's
line?
turds.
Yeah. It
I
stinks because I
agree with
really
that.
like Zach Wilson, but the offensive line's gonna be bad. But
It's
they got
not
Corey Davis
terrible.
and they got Denzel Mims.
Well, and they got Beckham last year,
Beckham.
and
That didn't look actually the right tackle, left tackle is really
Yeah.
good. And I trust Daniel to get up in that open zone concept, which I think will really fit Zach Wilson really well, actually. Him on the move. So yeah, it should be interesting. They got your man Chris Herndon.
They absolutely do. Unleash the man, please.
So again, answer my question. So we talk about receivers. This is a rookie wide receiver show.
Okay.
We are X amount of minutes in. We haven't mentioned one receiver, Jamar Chase. And
he's not even in this episode.
Jamar Chase is in this episode.
Is he?
he's the very first player we're talking about.
For some reason, I thought Devonta Smith was the first one.
That's
Dude,
next show.
All of a sudden now we're the Dynasty Garretts. Hey, what would you
There's a
give
nice
up
ring
for
to
what would you give up for Sam Darnold in a super flex right now? The highest you'd be willing to pay. Like you and I are going back and forth, and you're like, this is the bottom line because Matt O'Hara says so.
I'm only going number 10.
10?
Probably 10.
110? Okay.
I had 11 in my mind, so
Yeah.
same range. Yep.
Yeah, I'd go like 110. Yeah, that sounds about right. But which even then, like we're sitting there going, I would go there because there's some risk. That could end up being like a really good deal. Okay,
It could, just similar to Carolina. They're rolling the dice and they're only paying a second round draft pick, basically a second and fourth and a sixth. But
Mac Jones in San Francisco or Sam Darnold in Carolina.
See, I think that's very comparable. And
Right.
if he goes to San Fran, he's going to probably be a top 5 superflex pick.
and you're getting a couple extra years, so I think that's why you get a little bit.
Go Mac Jones.
Yeah, Mac Jones gets a little bit higher, I think, premium on because he's going to go like top 5, like you said.
All right. Well, we have plenty of
Wide
plenty
receptor
of summer.
time.
We have plenty of summertime to talk about all these teams. Obviously, when this is all over, we do our division breakdown. We break down every single team. And you can see all this content plus more. Like you just did some great interviews with Mike Wright from the Fantasy
Yep.
Footballers. You did an interview with Matt Harmon.
Yep,
and
that's not
Kyle-
even out yet. It should be out soon. though.
And Kyle Yates, a couple of ones
Kyle
coming up here
Yates.
too, all exclusive to our YouTube channel. So make sure you get to our YouTube channel where you can catch all these rookie breakdowns, extra content like Garrett's interviews, the film nerds as well, and of course like Marvin's videos and our IDP videos from Jordan Rains, all on our YouTube channel on dynastynerds.com YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button, and notifications button because we put out some great stuff. That's what I
Cool.
do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me? I put out okay stuff. You guys put out great stuff. Now, let's talk about some great players here.
You talk too much.
Kicking off the show with one of the consensus Dynasty wide receiver rookie ones, Jamar Chase out of LSU. 201 pounds, 6 foot. This is a guy who led FBS not last year, but in 2019 and dominated. 1,780 receiving yards, 20 touchdowns on 84 receptions. Had played in 14 games Broke some SEC records with those numbers as well. And this is a guy who comes in, and I'm going to say this out the gates. When I watched Jamar Chase.
And you didn't mention, though, that he opted out 2020.
I thought I did mention that.
No, I just wanted to get it out there just so everyone knew. You said that these are 2019 numbers, but he actually opted out. There wasn't an injury or anything.
Yes, he opted out.
Yep.
Like a lot of players. Well, not a lot, but he opted out. So going back and watching his 2019 film, I'm looking at a guy that I was just ready to see as my stud, like the stud muffin. Right? Jamar Chase is built in my head. Like, this guy is absolutely going to just blow off the tape here and look fantastic. Just blow off. Yeah, whoop, there he is. He was on my tape a minute ago. He's so good. He just ran off the tape. There he is in my living room. But I came away with
jump off the tape. That's what you were going for. That's what you were.
These words are so tricky sometimes. I came away with Jamar Chase with a feeling of he's a really good receiver.
There's not a lot to not like about this guy, right?
Yeah, there's nothing I don't not like about Jamar Chase. There's nothing I like.
That was a double negative. Yeah, so there is something that you don't like.
Okay, let's start with the things I didn't really think were that great. I mean, he could block a little better.
He doesn't give maximum effort, I feel like, on every play. I felt like when he wasn't the option, the number one option, you could tell. Because when you're watching tape, you're supposed to be watching the player that's playing. Right. You know what I mean? So you're not watching necessarily if the ball gets handed off and it's going the other way. But when it did, you could tell. You could tell when it was a running play just by the way he was running his route or trying to block, or if he wasn't the primary guy. Those are the kind of things that kind of get at me. I'm like, you're only going to give maximum effort on plays that are intended to go to you. That kind of always rubs me the wrong way.
Sure.
And you're always going to get knocked in my book if I see that kind of stuff on tape. And I did see that, not all the time, but sometimes.
Seldomly. I mean, there was a play, I think it was a championship game or what it was, and the play broke down and Joe Burrow was scrambling, and Jamar Chase was to his right, literally just standing there looking at him
yeah. They could have broke off some plays as well. I feel like, those 5 or 10 yard plays could become bigger plays if he maybe put some effort into blocking downfield as well.
His routes are okay.
I think his routes are pretty good. I can't knock him much on his routes.
Okay,
they're not the best. They're not the best. Yeah, they're absolutely not the best.
I'm just trying to think of some weaknesses that could kind of knock the guy on this. I think he's a fantastic receiver, by the way. This is a guy, he explodes off the line, right? He can stack his receiver really well. His routes are solid enough, but he's very physical. He'll go up and get the football. He's got good hands. Does he have the best hands in the world? No.
Here's the thing. And this
really good.
And this is what I noted. Because downfield, I felt like he attacked the ball really well and made a lot of tough catches, even with defenders on him. But closer to the line of scrimmage was a different story. If he had a guy in tight on him and he's just running a little crossing route or a comeback route, he didn't have as much success with a guy close to him. He dropped some of those passes.
It did seem like he was already going on to the next step at times.
Indeed. And those are the kind of things where if you're the top dog, you're making those plays no matter what, because you're just that good at catching and you're that honed in all the time. So it's the effort on the blocking and some of the things off the ball when it's not going to him. And it's the stuff close to the line of scrimmage that I feel like are just gimmies. Yeah. You should be able to get 3 or 4 and maybe even break off a 5 to 7 yard run, but you're just dropping the ball. And so it's those.
He does have good hands. I don't want to say his hands are, when I say that his hands are okay. I would say he has bad hands. I just say that when you talk about a guy who has elite hands, because again, we're talking about a prospect here. We have to be nitpicky about
we're picking him apart. He's my number 2 guy.
He's my wide receiver too as well.
I think he's our consensus.
I don't want to bump him down too much and make it sound worse than it is, but this is the reason he's not number 1 are these few things that I'm saying, because everything else he does really, really well.
Because basically we were going to ask you, well, why isn't Jamar Chase your number 1? This is why.
This is why. Yep.
It's crazy. It really is crazy that we're all on the same page here, because I thought
that's very surprising.
He'd be number 1, because I went into this wide receiver breakdowns expecting him to be my wide receiver 1, because he's just, the yards are there, the stats are there. But even when you're watching it, it's these yards they just come up on you. You know what I mean? He does. He made those big plays downfield. And this is a guy who had 8 touchdowns that were past 50 yards in 2019.
Lots of big plays.
But again, you said he dominates at the point of attack. He's a very physical receiver, and he's got really good speed. And this is a guy, when I look at the NFL level, who's going to be he has the upside through the roof, but he also is one of those players, like if he comes in, big time name, and he was the guy that came, like if you went to, say the Bengals did take Jamar Chase, like it wouldn't surprise me if T. Higgins was a better overall fantasy receiver than Jamar Chase. Like it, not to the point, like some people look at Amari Cooper, for example, as like a disappointment, right? Because of how high he was drafted in there. But he's still wide receiver 1 in Dynasty, right?
And I think that is the nice part about Jamar Chase is he is so incredibly safe. Like you can take him anywhere in the first round, and I'm not going to be mad at you. And you know that you're going to at least get a fantasy wide receiver 2 for the most part for his career. And I think when I go through my nerd score, and this is when I'm saying these numbers, these are my personal score. This isn't our overall score. But for me, I had a 79.6, which is the second highest score out of all my wide receivers. And I'm looking through here, and I mentioned last week, how we have it graded. 6 is your average NFL player. My lowest number on anything for him is a 7.5. So that just kind of shows you where he's at. Literally everything he does very well. I do think he's one of the most physical players in this class, and I think that's one of the differentiators for him. And he has great control over his body. That's something that you see sometimes is you see guys go downfield and you can tell that they just get disjointed. They lose track of the ball. He is always in control of what he's doing. He's very smooth, very polished from that perspective. So I have no questions that he will be successful at the next level. It's just, will he be a good receiver or will he be elite? That's what I'm not sure about.
Yeah, I mean, he just accelerates so well. I mean, he's just, even off the line, he does it so well all over the field. And he kind of reminds me a little bit of Robert Woods, a little bit there. Again, and some people would say, oh, that's a bad, Robert Woods. People fail to realize Robert Woods is like a high-end, super high-end wide receiver 2 consistently, like wide receiver 13, wide receiver 14, like, that to me seems like, oh, that's like Jamar Chase if he doesn't turn into a superstar, right? Like he turns into Robert Woods, which again, if you can get a 21, 22-year-old Robert Woods that's going to put up wide receiver 13 to 14, occasionally wide receiver 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 numbers, that's a home run in a rookie draft. Again, a home run. If you can take a rookie pick, no matter where you take them, and that player at wide receiver turns into a consistent high-end wide receiver 2, which again is wide receiver 13, 14, 15, that's a home run pick. A home run pick because you're getting somebody you can start on your roster week in and week out. And those guys are just hard to come by.
Can we call it a triple? Can we call
instead of a home run?
Instead of a home run?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the home run would be the top 5 guy, like all the consent.
Sure.
Okay, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Like that's a home run.
Yeah.
Getting a guy like that in the top part of the first round it's like a triple. You did really well.
And you're never going to be upset
and
with
you're
that
never going to be upset with it. Yeah, because all you need is a little single to get you home. So it's, I mean, it's not that bad. But there are just those few nitpicky things. And like I said, and a lot of those things can be improved on. I think it's all you need is the right coach to light a fire in your ass, like during a film session. Like, hey, dude, you can't do this right here, and you're going to be amazing. Like, this is the little things that are going to get you over the top. And who knows, the year off, he could have gotten that kind of coaching and guidance from whomever he was training with. And maybe he comes into camps and you never see any of that. And he turns out to be this amazing guy that lives up to all the potential.
It wouldn't shock me.
Me neither.
That would not shock me in the least.
Me neither, but we have to go off. We're basing this stuff off of stuff we're looking at on tape. And those are the little nitpicky things that I can say bumped him down below.
Very high ceiling. Easily go just like at LSU, like you could turn into an Odell Beckham. You know what I mean? Like Odell Beckham came in, same thing, right around pick, like in the teens or like 13, 12, right around there. Jamar Chase could easily turn into Odell Beckham. He could easily turn into now he's faster than Jarvis Landry, but like a Jarvis Landry, again, who was a very solid NFL player who broke records. We all love Jamar Chase. He is our consensus number 2 overall wide receiver. We do have a consensus. The player we're going to talk about in the Nerd Herd episode, which is our next show, Devontae Smith. We all agree he's our wide receiver 1, right? And we're going to explain why on our Nerd Herd show. So if you're not a Nerd Herd member, make sure you subscribe today so you hear why we think Devontae Smith is your number 1 rookie wide receiver in this 2021 class. But coming in as number 2 receiver in a very strong class, ahead of guys like right now, Elijah Moore, Jalen Waddle, Rondale Moore, these are
Rashad Bateman.
Rashad Bateman. These are it's a strong class at receiver. So for him to be number 2 says a lot. Let's move on. Dyami Brown out of North Carolina, 6 foot, 195 pounds.
Dyami.
I'm sorry, Dyami.
And the funny part is you got it right earlier and were correcting me.
I told you how to say his name, and I just messed it up.
You overthought it. That's all right.
It's Dyami Brown. Dyami Brown. And this was the guy that I saw on Twitter really like take a big step forward. So when I got into his tape, I'm like, okay, I'm excited to finally watch some Dyami Brown because I've heard a lot about him on Twitter. Some guys I respect saying this guy's going his board. He's 6 foot, 195 pounds. And then I watched his tape, and I came away like, oh, wow, this is not very overly impressive. What are these people talking about? I saw a guy who was, to me, really slow getting off the line. Like, kind of like sometimes at times ridiculously slow to me. Like,
and the reason you saw that is you can actually see in his stance, he actually almost has to reload a little bit. He goes back slightly. And it's almost like a clutch thing. He doesn't actually take a false step, but he lowers his weight and then goes forward. So that's why he's a little bit slow off the line. I noticed that as well.
And you're going to see some stats. Like if you're a stat reader, right, you're going to see some things here, and people talk about like this is a guy who averaged over 20 yards a catch. Right,
he's a big play type of guy.
This guy had over like about 8 touchdowns that were over like 40 yards. This is a guy who scored a lot of touchdowns. And he's a playmaker. But to me, all those plays were like, I would say 60 to 50% of those were like just poor defensive back play. Like, honestly, some of those plays, I was like, what was that defender doing there? Because this guy is a deep threat receiver, right? Like, he's an outside deep threat receiver. And when I look at a guy like Dyami Brown, I see a guy who got an NFL team, but I don't see him really envision him helping your fantasy football team. I just don't really see it when I see him standing there. I like the way he could track the ball.
Yep.
And I like the way
he definitely tracks the ball over his shoulders.
Really made some. And all the good plays I liked are literally all of his deep plays, tracking the ball well, catching the ball over his shoulders like that. But anything short underneath, him off the line, I hate. I did not just not like it. I hate it. I thought it was not good at all. And for me,
I think you like him less than I do. It sounds like you really kind of dislike him. I think he's got some things to work on.
I think he's an NFL player.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want him on my dynasty team. I don't think he's a dynasty player. Is that again? I'm looking for dynasty upside here, and I just don't really like. I don't see the consistency enough for him to put up the points that I'm going to need to start him on a consistent basis.
Right? He's like
a wide receiver 6.
He doesn't offer much from yards after the catch. He's a try-hard guy. Like he'll try to fight for extra yards. He's not going to get many. I think his route running is good, not great. He needs to work on that and clean some things up. But he is a big play guy, and from a fantasy perspective, that's always going to be volatile.
Yep.
And I feel like that's kind of where he's going to live, unless he learns how to run
like a good
route.
DFS guy. Like
this
guy could blow up this week because he could make a couple big plays.
Absolutely.
I just don't know if I just don't know if his strengths translate to an NFL level. That's all. That's what I'm concerned about. That's what I'm concerned about.
So there was a couple things that I noticed that I think they did him a little bit of a disservice. One, he was always lined up as the X receiver, always on the left side. It was very, very rarely, and it was unique gimmicky packages where he was not lined up on the left side. So always lined up in the same spot. So we haven't got to see him in the slot. We didn't get to see him against a few different players. But the other thing was his route tree was pretty limited. Mm-hmm. He very, very, like, I watched, I think I've gotten through about 5 games of him, and I saw like 2 slants the entire time. Like, it was a good majority of it was fly routes, it was outs, and then it was comeback routes.
Yep.
That was probably 85% of his route tree.
I agree with that. Yep.
That's the hard part. Can he learn that? Sure, he can learn that. Mm-hmm. But I do think that there is going to take some time. Is he a good enough athlete to overcome those things early, or is he a guy that might just get buried kind of early if he doesn't make big plays right off the bat?
And even then, like, some of it, like, his hands were just okay too. Like,
his hands were okay. He definitely dropped some passes that he should have caught. Yep.
So it's like there's so many things here that just like limit his upside from a fantasy perspective. Like, you're only gonna get so many targets at the NFL level. Like, again, in North Carolina being a deep threat, like, he did see a decent amount of targets, but he saw there's some drops I didn't like here. And again, there's a lot of stuff on tape that I saw I don't think is going to fly at the next level.
And you would think that a traditional X receiver, and we're talking about Dyami Brown, where a traditional X receiver would be a very, very good contested catch guy, and he really wasn't.
That was going to be my next thing. This is a guy he's got a 38 vertical, but you never see him go up and get a ball. He's not like a contested catch guy, so it's he's very much a one-trick pony at this point in his career. Hopefully he can work some stuff out and get better at some other things, but as of now, he's a go long type of guy.
And there's a couple guys like that in this draft.
Yeah.
That, like, if you're looking for that kind of player, right now Dyami Brown has the name. You can get the same exact player later in the draft, which just as good upside as Dyami.
So I think we're all kind of feeling similar.
Jared, it looks like you want to say something over there. You're like chomping at the bit.
Well, per PFF, they tweeted it out March 11th. Dyami Brown has never dropped a contested target in his career.
Well, if you go back through the thread, because I saw that too. Go through that thread. It was a misquote by the social media team.
Well, look at that.
Yep, misquote by the social media team.
I saw him drop
he was like
contested
actually like 50th in that or something.
And I will say,
consistently.
PFF has tweeted out stuff like that, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I've seen that guy drop a ton of like tough targets. So.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
Allen Robinson never dropped a pass.
Yeah.
And then, like, Ray Garvin's out
That's
there
exactly-
retweeting 2 balls of, like, showing Allen Robinson, like, what is this? Like, get him
yeah,
right.
they got to work on their social media team because I think they're misrepresenting
That
them.
was exactly the one I was thinking of.
Yep,
Yeah, so what my thing here is in North Carolina, the way he gets off the line, like I said, that's why I started with it, because I think it's his biggest weakness, and why I don't think it translates. Yeah, he's a good deep threat. I don't think the way he gets off the line, the way he moves, is gonna fly at the NFL. Like, he's not. Like, there's no defensive backs at the NFL level on a consistent basis that are going to have trouble, I don't think, covering Dyami Brown. I guess is the best way to put it. And he's not strong enough. His hands aren't strong enough or good enough to win enough to make him fantasy football relevant. You know, I mean, again, anybody can learn how to run routes at the next level with a good enough coach and a good enough scheme, but this is a guy who's going to be very scheme dependent. And again, it's kind of like, what I didn't overly love Marquise Brown, who's a first-round pick.
Is this does he feel like a Mike Wallace, like an old school Steelers Mike Wallace type of
I could see that.
player to you? Because that's kind of
maybe not as fast, unfortunately.
Yeah, right, exactly. But he's a 4.4 guy instead of a low 4.3 type of guy.
Yeah. Okay.
That's I mean, because it's like
One-trick pony.
One-trick pony. You're going to go down the field, and that's kind of what you do. Sure, you're going to be able to catch some other things, and but your biggest value to the team is going to be pulling those safeties down the field and clearing stuff out.
So me personally, I'm staying away from Dyami Brown. Where he's going to go. I hope every other fantasy analyst keeps pushing him up, or sites like PFF pushes him up and makes him a name, because it's just going to push more guys down the list. Because there's a lot of guys that are behind other people's rankings that I like a lot more, at least that offer more fantasy football upside. Because remember, it's not about where these players always go in the NFL draft. It's what do they bring to the fantasy football table. And we talk about it all the time. Like, what does this guy offer from fantasy football relevance? And there's tons of receivers that we've talked about over the last 7 years that people are like a little bit higher on, that we're like, hey, yeah, you hear us mention this all the time. Like, this is a good NFL player that help an NFL team. It does not mean he's going to help your dynasty team. And there's a difference between the two and how they correlate. You want to make sure you're making your dynasty team better. Yep. And sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes a player can definitely help an NFL team. They won't help your dynasty team. And that's where I feel like Dyami Brown, well, honestly, I don't really think he does either there. But I don't think he helps your dynasty team.
I did forget to mention, I have him currently as my wide receiver 12. Now, I do not have all of the wide receivers graded yet. Most of the big names, but there's 3 or 4 guys in here that I have not graded yet that I could definitely see be above him. So we're looking at like a 15th, 16th overall. Yeah. And he has a score of a 68.8 for me.
I see him closer to the 15, 16 round. He's that next tier of guys where I'm taking some of these tight ends. I'm taking all these other running backs that offer some upside whatsoever, like Ludius Minimus. I'm taking him for sure over there. Khalil Herbert over him. Kenneth Gainwell over him for sure. Michael Carter over him as well. Those are all running backs that take over a guy like Dyami Brown. So to me, he's a very late third round.
Third round, we're looking for sure for this
late
guy. Yep.
Third round to fourth round. Even then, I might want to see there's going to be some guys that are going to get bumped by. Like, I'll take guys that got NFL draft bumps over him just because of opportunity and draft capital. So Dyami Brown, to me, you're okay on him. You're okay on him.
No, I'm just higher than you on him. You're completely out, and I would feel okay getting him at the third round at this point. But if he gets drafted to if he gets drafted into a different situation, who knows, or a bad situation, he might drop even lower.
Well, let's talk about a receiver. I do like over him, and that's Amari Rodgers out of Clemson, 5'10", 212 pounds. This is a guy actually the son of a former NFL quarterback, T. Martin. So this is somebody who was Mr. Tennessee football 2 times as well, and he reminds me of Deebo Samuel. That's my comp for him. Like, he reminds me, he's that short, compact slot receiver who has that big, strong body. And this is a guy who has that running back like build to him, and when he gets to the football into his hands, he looks like a running back. And that's what we loved about Debo at the time too. This guy, now he came back. He came into his year, played okay as a freshman, came in as a sophomore, then tore his ACL late in the year, or not after in March he tore it.
I think it was after the season, of 2018. So it was actually into 2019, the very beginning of it.
Came back after it missed one game in 2020.
2020, he
was days.
He was practicing up to that first game, but missed it, and then came back for the second game.
This is a guy who's quick, gets going very quickly, and what I love about him, he's just so smooth in and out of his breaks. He can go up there, 50-50 ball. We're sitting there knocking like Dyami Brown about a 50-50 ball. He does not have any problem with the 50-50 ball. And he's a hands catcher, right?
He is.
He's going to get the ball in his hands, and he's going to move. So not only is he really smooth getting out of his breaks, he's got good speed. This is a guy who has good hands, but when he gets the ball in his hands, he's a weapon, right? Like, when I watch him, I'm seeing the fantasy points, just accumulate here, slow and steady. Everything I loved about Deebo Samuel, I like about Amari Rodgers out of Clemson. He's just a very good football player.
Yep.
He's got the genetics. Now, I know watching his tape there as well, he didn't see, like, they played off of him a lot. For some reason, they play, but he
lined up in the slot quite a bit, and occasionally he would line up on the outside. It was only in like two wide receiver sets, though, for the most part, from what I saw, and I didn't see him get jammed a lot. So I know what you're saying there. He's a very interesting guy. I don't think he's quite as physical as Debo was, but I do think he's more physical than most slot wide receivers. He's not a small, skinny guy. He's very stocky, 212 pounds. But he's sneaky because he can also make plays downfield, because a lot of the stuff he does is going to draw you in. He's doing a lot of curls, a lot of crossing routes, a lot of stuff close to the line of scrimmage. But then he'll do a double move on you and get downfield on you, and he's great at adjusting the balls in the air. I've seen him, some passes that, Trevor Lawrence occasionally will throw a pass that isn't right on the mark, and he's leaning back, coming back for it, making that outstretched hands catch and coming down with it. He's a very, very interesting player. I like him a lot. Amari Rodgers is a guy that I would love to take a chance on in the second round.
100%.
That's exactly where I feel like he's going to end up being. And I have really no issues. Like, obviously, you look at, if you're a stat person, you're looking at his numbers in 2018, and then he took a dip in 2019. But that was the year that he rushed back from an ACL after like 7 months. So of course you're going to have a little bit of a down year. And this year he's over 1,000 yards.
And he was on the field with some great players like T. Higgins and who's the guy?
Justin Ross.
Yeah, Justin Ross, who should hopefully be back this year, which is great to see.
He came in when they lose T. Higgins this year. Justin Ross injury. He comes in, he's number one guy. He goes over 1,000 yards. I mean, he had some good
produced.
Games. Yep. I mean, he had a couple games I watched. I can't remember what game it was. Where he had multiple touchdowns. Just had a third touchdown. He made this dynamic catch in the end zone where he caught the ball, fell down, rolled down, made possession, and then it came out 2 seconds later. I thought it was a touchdown. They ruled it not a touchdown, but I mean.
That was a nice catch. Yeah, or not a nice not catch, I guess.
Remember what I'm talking
I know exactly.
He caught the touchdown.
Yep.
He actually rolled with it, and then it came out a second later. Oh, not a touchdown. To me, I thought he was a touchdown. But yeah, I mean, he makes those kind of plays though.
Absolutely.
He's dynamic.
I currently have him at a 73.13,
nice.
right around wide receiver 8-9 at the moment.
I love him. That's where I love him too. Right around 8, 9.
And he's a guy that's probably going to live in the wide receiver 3 realm for most of his career.
Yeah, and he's going to be a really good slot receiver.
And that's okay. I mean, if you're getting a guy that you can plug into your starting lineup, like you were saying with Jamar Chase earlier, you're going to be able to plug this guy in and not have to worry about it. I feel like he's that good.
He was another guy that Jared and I saw a lot of at the Senior Bowl, and he was just constantly winning.
Yeah.
Really good routes. Didn't drop any passes. We know we saw some guys drop quite a few passes there. He didn't drop any passes. He always carried himself very professionally. He looked like he was there with a plan. He knew what he was doing the entire time.
And he's quicker than fast.
I agree. He's definitely quicker than fast. I have higher numbers on quickness than.
But he's fast enough.
Absolutely. He's not slow.
Yeah. So it's not. I don't want it to sound bad, but he's quicker than he is fast.
And you love to see guys that produce in big moments on big teams that are he has that winning mentality being with Clemson for a while.
Did you guys mention he tore his ACL?
Yes.
Okay.
Came back in
I
166
missed that.
days. Yeah, came back
Okay.
really quick. Yeah, I mean, you said where his 40 times not paid, but I saw plenty of tape where he would pull away from the defender.
Oh, he's definitely got good speed.
He got the outside.
He's just not Ruggs or Waddle.
He's
those
a
guys.
4.51. That's what he was at the.
Which is,
sounds about right.
Which is totally fine and totally good enough to win at the next level on multiple occasions.
Real quick, since we're talking 40, we didn't mention it with Jamar Chase, and it'll come up later when we talk about Marshall or Racey McMath. But the LSU numbers. Did you guys see all the LSU numbers for the 40s?
I'm done looking at any 40 number from any pro day because everybody runs a 4.25 all of a sudden. Everybody's the fastest kid in the world. I mean, Mac Jones probably ran a 4.35 at Alabama pro day.
He actually ran like a 4.7 or something. Yeah, he ran a really good time.
Remember when he scrambled at the Senior Bowl? We're like,
It's not actually
actually look at that
terrible,
fast.
yeah, as you would think. So, but I did find that interesting. Jamar Chase came in with like a 4.37.
Yeah.
Marshall also with a 4.37. McMath was like a 4.33. There were some pretty wild numbers.
39-yard 40s.
And don't get me wrong, I think Jamar Chase is fast, but I think that's more of a like a 4.47 than a 4.37.
Everybody's got an extra second. It's crazy. There's another pro day. Everybody ran a 4.29. Like, it was insane. It's like, dude, come on.
You got to at least put like a tenth and a half on there, you know?
How do these pro days not have like the combine shit set
I don't
up,
know.
you know?
I really wish they would have done like several mini combines maybe, or
they tried. They did like the EXO.
Like the lasers and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's weird. But I even saw a tweet about just pro day numbers versus combine numbers in general are very skewed. So especially when you don't even have the combine to compare it to, it's like, oh, people don't even know what you ran at the combine, so we can, that's the hard part. I don't want to be conspiracy theory guy because I don't think teams are necessarily doing this intentionally.
It's not conspiracy because we literally, but it's the same thing talked about when there is a combine. Like, oh, here come the pro day numbers. It's just nobody cares because you have the combine numbers for proof. But it happens every year. It's just this year. It's like people are like going overboard because like, oh, there is no combine. This guy's a 4. But these scouts know they're not going away going, oh yeah, this is good.
But some of the numbers they make sense.
They do, and that's the hard part to weigh.
This one feels like it makes sense to me because 4.51 when you're watching him, you're like, yeah, that looks like it actually adds up to me.
Yeah. Right. Well, this is a guy that I definitely want to get on the site from our friends at PredictionStrike.com. Amari Rodgers is a guy that I really like, so I'm gonna be looking at his price. I'm gonna be seeing where I can get him on the low. Not a huge name, so might be able to sneak in some shares there. But our friends at PredictionStrike.com, it's the only place that you can buy and sell players just like you can with the stock market. We mention it every week. These are the episodes that help build your Prediction Strike lineups. They're the players you buy, the players you sell. This is the type of information you need to know to get in on these guys early before everyone knows their names, before everybody's familiar with all of those guys. They have the wonderful, wonderful app that you can download. And best yet, if you sign up with our promo code Dynasty, you get $10 free with your first deposit of $20 or more. That's promo code Dynasty to receive $10 with your first deposit of $20 or more. Those are our friends over at Prediction Strike.
Yeah, and we also have great friends. Listen, springtime is coming, and it's time to do some spring cleaning. And right now, our friends at Manscaped are offering you 20% off and free shipping with the promo code NERDS. Listen, the flowers are blooming, the grass is growing. It's time to chop those weeds, right? Mm-hmm. Bonsai that bush. Look, we're all about to go back out and have some fun. You don't want to go out there looking like a Sasquatch, looking like Garrett Price over here. You want to go out there trimmed up, cleaned up, trimmed down, looking good.
Trimmed up and trimmed down.
Take care of that garden. And right now, Manscaped, they're the leaders in men's below-the-waist grooming and have forever changed the grooming game. This thing is absolutely fantastic. I've had one for almost a year now, and I love it. It's waterproof.
It's got a light.
They have a light on there, so in case it goes dark out, it doesn't matter. Like, hey, you might not be able to see me, but when you touch me, you're going to be very impressed. Yeah. You're not getting lost down there. So right now, I mean, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of not yourself, but do it for your significant other. Or not even your significant other. Just some random person you might end up meeting. You want to make a good first impression. You want to make it like, oh, man, this is 1970? What
first
kind of afro
impression.
are you walking?
Woo.
Yeah, it's important.
It's not a third date thing anymore.
Well, yeah, if you want a third date, you gotta make sure. Got buck weekend headlock. Yeah. Well, not a headlock, it'd be a leg lock.
A leg lock.
Yeah. Like, oh, where's everything at? I'm like, I don't know. Dig deeper.
Go find it. I don't know.
Pot the hairs. So right now, Manscaped, 20% off, free shipping. Use that promo code NERD. Check out all their products. They have some really good stuff over there. I love their lotion. It smells great. I think it's fantastic. Manscaped.com, 20% off, free shipping, promo code NERDS. Get on there today. I'll thank you. Your balls will thank you. And whoever you hook up with, they will absolutely thank you.
I just bought 5 shares of Sam Darnold on Prediction Strike because the market has not reacted yet.
Really?
There you go.
Look at this guy making money.
Savvy.
This is our old producer, Jared Wackerly. Now he's a billionaire.
Thank you, Sam Darnold.
Thank you, Sam Darnold. I love you, Sam. So let's go back on here. So let's get back to these receivers, shall we?
Yep.
Let's talk about Dez Fitzpatrick out of Louisville, 6'2", 202 pounds. This is a guy, when you look at him, like, this guy right here is an NFL receiver. And then you're like, oh, what does he do? And you're like, oh, he goes deep. What else does he do? I don't know. Goes deep. Not going to really do much after the catch, which is weird because he's like, when you look at him, he's a big guy, but I mean, he's got some. I
thought he was okay after the catch. To be honest,
He's got some good speed.
Yeah, I thought he offered more than some of these other guys.
I thought speed was like kind of like build up speed.
I thought he offered more than like a Dyami Brown, for instance. So he's got something, I think, after the catch.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge Dez Fitzpatrick guy. He is one of the lower guys on my sheet so far. I currently have him at a 66.63. So that would put him roughly 17, 18. And we're going to be grading about 30-some receivers, 40-some receivers. So I would guess he's going to be in the bottom quarter probably. He does have good ideal size. I don't think, for somebody that has that size, his contested catch ability is just, it's fine.
I was going to say it's not terrible.
He made some plays, and you saw some plays where he utilized it, but he's not necessarily like the thickest guy, so it's more height than physical weight.
I agree with that.
And for a big guy, you could press him at the line, and you could just totally take him off his game.
But he's also he's a guy that can get deep. He's a guy that he took like short little screen passes and took him to the house as well. So he's got pretty good speed, and I think he's got a little bit of ability after the catch. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to equate because he's not like special anywhere. You know what I mean? So it's difficult to predict how he's going to produce at the NFL level.
I think his numbers came from being 6'2", 202 pounds, and a solid athlete at Louisville. I don't see his game. I think
it's pretty stiff.
Yeah, I think NFL quarterbacks or cornerbacks will absolutely be able to like handle him, reroute him, press him on the line, hit him in the back end. I don't think he's talented enough at the receiver position to play at the NFL level. Honestly, I mean,
you don't think he can play at the NFL? You think he's practice squad material?
I think I honestly, when I watched his tape, I came away like this guy is not going to, like, in 3 years from now, I don't see Dez Fitzpatrick on an NFL roster.
I do think he's fifth rounder later in the NFL draft. Okay. I would be shocked if he went any higher than that. I think fifth is probably the earliest.
I mean, dude, for a big guy,
I don't disagree with either one of you guys, like saying that he's good. Fifth round, I don't think he's going to be like practice squad. I think he'll make a squad. I think he'll be a fourth wide receiver on a team and try to work his way up from there and see if he can earn like a slot role or something, like a big slot role.
There's so much wide receiver talent in this class, and there's been so much coming in. It's just like these guys are going to start.
That
is
the tough part.
It's going to be hard for these guys starting to make rosters, and like for this guy, like he doesn't do anything. Again, you saw him like make a couple of those short area passes, go to the house. I thought that was because like he's a big, solid. I don't think he's not athletic or anything like that. It's just, like you said, tight hips. When he gets the football, even when he gets the ball in his hand, like he doesn't do much. Like he's not like hard to bring down. Right. For a guy, when I looked at his size, when he's lined up, like, okay, let's get into this guy at Louisville, let's go. And then I just came away like this guy is
that how you attack Louisville tape?
Yeah, I was like, let's go.
Here we go, Louisville.
Bring back Teddy B. But
What about Lamar, if you're going to bring back somebody?
Okay, bring back Lamar. Lamar ain't throwing anybody. He's running for 8,000 yards. It just, when I watched this tape, again, I came away, we mentioned earlier in the show, like, what is this guy bringing to my dynasty team? This guy is not bringing, like, to me, he's a clog on your dynasty.
He's 23 also.
And he's 23 also. So he's a waste of a roster space on your dynasty. If you like, I don't even want to waste my taxi squad spot with this guy. You know what I mean? Like, there's like I could just do so much better than
No,
Dez
I get
Fitzpatrick.
it.
I just don't see it.
I think you can do worse if you're one of these people that have like a sixth round thing, like to pluck him up in the fifth or sixth round.
Of course, you could do
right.
worse, but at this point, like I'm just trying to do
Better.
you know, Garrett. What do you? I mean,
that's where I have him. Like I said, he's in the bottom 5 for me right now. The receivers that I've graded, I don't see like there's definitely some lower tier guys that are going to be in the same range as him, but I think he's going to be in the bottom 25%.
There's some smaller school guys that I definitely see higher up.
There's one we're going to talk about tonight that I would take over him.
100%.
100 times out of 100.
But if you put a gun to my head right now and you're like, Rich, Dez Fitzpatrick will be on an NFL roster week 1, 2021 season, I would say no.
I would say, I mean, this season?
I
think he'll make it.
I think he'll make a roster.
I think he'll make a roster.
But if you're talking 2 or 3 years from now, I could see you being correct.
All right, let's make a bet on this.
Oh.
Let's bet. You both think he will be.
Yes.
I'm saying week 1 of the NFL season, Dez Fitzpatrick will not be an NFL roster.
Okay. What's the bet? I'm in.
I don't know. I got to think of something. But
as the show continues, we'll think of something.
Something will pop
it's
up.
a bet.
We'll come back to it.
I'm with Rich.
Okay.
Oh, are you?
All right.
Yeah.
Now
You're out.
Now it's 2-2.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't. Like, that's
2
how
on 2
low,
basketball. There
I
you
just
go.
want to make a point. Like that's how low I think of him and like what he could bring to an NFL
There's
team.
just a lot of guys that do the same thing.
Yeah, there is.
Exactly. Like, there's nothing special about his game. He's not. There's too many young receivers coming to this game. There's too many guys we're going to talk about. Now, could one of those guys be Brennan Eagles out of Texas? Again, big guy, 6'4", 225 pounds. He could run straight.
He can run straight.
He can.
Shall we continue?
What are Brennan Eagles' strengths out of Texas at 6'4", 220 pounds? He can run straight and he's really big. This is a guy, he averaged 17 yards per catch. He could run
He was pretty physical, had some good contested
slant.
catches.
He can run a slant.
I feel like in the contested catching, he uses his body well to shield defenders, and he can make some plays. He
Jump high.
He can make some plays downfield, but he is super stiff.
Super stiff.
And this is one of those things where
light as a feather, stiff as a board.
If I was evaluating this guy,
Get on your brakes. I fell over.
somebody get out the fingers, pick him up. If I was evaluating this guy as a tight end and I knew that he was going to be going against linebackers and safeties in the NFL,
Sure.
I'd be excited.
That makes sense.
And if by any chance, like if he gets announced on draft day as a tight end, it'll pique my interest because I think that he moves well for a tight end. He just moves. He's so lethargic and just stiff for a wide receiver.
He's kind of like a poor man's Devin Funchess.
I agree with that.
If you want a poor man's Devin Funchess, Brennan Eagles is your guy.
Yeah. So,
I think when we messed up last year and what we thought Chase Claypool was, this is what we thought Chase Claypool was. Now, obviously, Chase Claypool
I thought
ended up being much better.
it would be great for a guy that moves that quick for a guy of his size. I was probably going to draft him probably like top 5 in my rookie draft, but you guys talked me out of it.
Yeah.
Off the air, of
Off
course.
the record.
Off the record.
Right.
No documentation on that one. But yeah, another guy that I like your idea. Like, if he gets announced as a tight end, like that offers some.
He's got the good size, and I do want to say, like we said it earlier, but he does win contested catches.
Absolutely.
He will win those. So he's not going to run a lot of crossing routes, slant routes.
I thought his 50-50 balls were just.
He's not going to run any. He's not going to run a lot of routes.
Right. From the bench.
He's not going to run a lot of routes just because he can't.
I got him at a 67.5.
He's lumbering.
So
lumbering.
he's actually one spot above Dez Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
Right now is where I have him.
I was going to ask if he was going to end up ahead of. Wow, you really hate Dez Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I just don't think he's that good.
All right.
That's higher than I thought you'd have him, actually, Garrett.
Wait,
It's higher than you thought I'd have him?
I haven't breaking them down.
he hates Dez Fitzpatrick, but we're going to make a bet about Dez Fitzpatrick being on an opening day roster.
Well, if you're drafted in the 6th round, chances are you're making the team.
We'll find out. We'll see what team it is.
The draft doesn't happen. He ain't getting drafted.
You don't think he's getting drafted?
Dez Fitzpatrick?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I don't think
Wow.
Interesting.
Well, if he doesn't get drafted, then
That definitely helps your guys'
that
case.
definitely helps your case. Yep.
For sure.
All right, let's end the show on a high note, right?
Let's
Ooh,
do it.
cherry on top. I'm
We just talked
so
about
excited about this
two
guy.
colonels and a turd
Yep.
in the last 2 receivers in Dez Fitzpatrick and Brennan Eagles. Sorry to your families. Sorry to you guys. You guys might be cool dudes.
Probably.
Be cool dudes at your next job, just not as NFL wide receivers. Now, let's talk about Austin Watkins out of UAB, who all three of us thought we were going to come in here with the last guy, with the sneaky guy we liked. Well, turns out
we all like him.
Austin Watkins out of UAB, 6'2", 207 pounds. Those numbers sound nice. Now, you might know the name Watkins and like, hey, could he be related to Sammy Watkins? You bet your tuchus he's his cousin, okay? This is a guy who is a big wide receiver with really good hands. He'll work the middle. He'll dominate the middle. His hands are really good. I've seen him make some one-handed catches out there that look fantastic.
I've seen him make some no-handed catches.
Woo, look at that.
Just kidding.
In between the chesticles.
Six in his helmet.
Oh, he's got
Little Giant style.
Oh, that'd be great. I'll show you intimidation. Really good route runner, plays physical. This guy, when I watched his tape, I was like, how is this guy at UAB?
So he was a JUCO guy.
He was a JUCO,
Yeah, he was a JUCO guy. And was he a redshirt senior? Yeah, he was a redshirt senior.
He is older.
Well. So he's going to be a little bit older. I couldn't find an age on him. I'm not sure.
I haven't been able to find it too. Well, we'll double check the Senior Bowl stuff because he was at the Senior Bowl.
Okay, yeah, the pro day, he's coming out April 9th. I think you had a different size, right? From the
so yeah, he at the Senior Bowl they measured him same weight 207, but he was 6'1.5".
Okay.
But that actually makes me feel good. A half inch, not a big deal because we saw Rashad Bateman listed at 6'2".
Yeah, 2 inches.
And he almost lost a full 2 inches.
Watkins
there.
is a half inch.
So that's still a good like prototypical X receiver size,
and he's built well as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think some of his size does it does limit him, like it limits some of his separation. I guess the way when he would run, like he limits some of his separation. Saw a lot of contested catches that he did well
very well
UAB.
Yeah.
And another thing I didn't like, when he did get the ball in his hands, he wasn't overly.
That was one of the lower parts of his game. Is his yards after the catch weren't anything special.
And I literally wrote he doesn't offer a ton in the yards after a catch ability. So.
But I remember seeing him at the Senior Bowl. This was a guy I knew nothing about going into the Senior Bowl. And, we talked about it before. We do a lot of Devy work. So this was not a guy that was even on my radar. So I was like, how good could he be? We know a bunch of names, and I don't know anything about this guy. And Jared and I both walked away like, this kid can play. Like, watching him during some of the wide receiver drills, he's running the routes and he's running through the cones very similar to the guys that are 5'9", 5'10". He's able to sink his hips very, very well. Very smooth for a bigger guy.
He's very nice suddenness out of
very nice. Very nice. He gets off the line very well.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was one of the things that actually kind of scared me. I had to lower it a little bit just to like get back into the world of like realness. But like when I just initially put his numbers in, they were astronomical. But here's closer to realness. But they still feel too great. But I don't know where else to lower him. This was the hard part about this. But he actually came in with a 75 for me.
Yeah, there's not a lot of deficiencies in his game. So I think that makes a lot of sense after watching him. I mean, I know he's a small school guy, and that's where you get scared. You get scared because
you don't know anything about him. Like, I haven't heard of him before.
Playing against
4 months ago,
South Alabama, Central Arkansas. And it's some of these teams that he's playing. Texas, San Antonio. I mean, they're not powerhouses. One of the things
that helped though, he did play Miami this year, and I watched the All 22 tape on the Miami game very, very intently. And there were many instances. Now, granted, he only ended up with 3 catches for 32 yards and a touchdown. Yep. The touchdown was a great catch, by the way. Great comeback to the ball. But there were multiple instances. I showed you guys one before the show where he burnt his man.
The guy fell over. He was so embarrassed.
He burnt him so bad, and the quarterback missed him by 8 yards.
Yep.
Like, it wasn't even close. So he was getting open, and they just had a hard time getting him the football.
They were shuffling between quarterbacks all year. They had like this weird break because there was COVID, either going through their teams or the teams that they were playing. So they didn't play from Halloween until like December, and then he finally opted out at that point.
Which is why his stats are lower.
Exactly.
A 1,000-yard season before, he had 34 receptions, 468 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, so I think it was a bit of an odd year, but if you watch the tape, it's very impressive what he's actually putting on tape in some of these games. So
yeah.
The only question I have is the level of competition. Can he do it at the next level? Yep. And how, at the Senior Bowl, did you're saying he looked pretty good.
He stood out as one of the best receivers. It was really, and Jared, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he was like him, Amari Rodgers, Powell looked pretty good too, and Nico Collins. I think those were the 4 receivers that I kind of walked away with a stock up, and I couldn't definitively say that there was somebody there better than Watkins.
Okay, and that's what I love to hear, because that's exactly what I love about the Senior Bowl and other type of All-Star games and getting to the combine and stuff like that. You finally get to see these guys kind of on a level playing field.
Yep.
See how they do against a higher level of competition. Do they shrink or do they rise to the occasion and perform up to your standards that you see on tape? And it sounds like he's performed up to the standards that we've seen on tape.
Jared,
awesome.
anything I missed on him that you remember from Senior Bowl?
One thing that stood out to me at the Senior Bowl, just seeing him around all these guys that are most likely going to be in the NFL, is he's looked the part. Like, he has the physique, he has the NFL body.
He definitely does.
And going into that week, I wasn't even expecting to watch him, but he popped for me. So I like him a lot.
You say he's 208. He looks bigger than that on film, in my opinion. In my estimation, he's like he could have come in at 215, 220, and I wouldn't have been shocked. He's that rocked up looking. So this
is a player I want on my dynasty rosters, and what's intriguing about him now is, like, let's see where he goes in the NFL draft, because let's see. What I'm wondering there is, does he get the NFL draft bump? Does he go in the 4th round?
I kind of hope he doesn't, because I don't want people to know him.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm saying, like, but that might change him from a 2nd round rookie pick for me to a 3rd round pick. Like, I would like Austin Watkins is the player this year in 2021 that I want to come away with in every 3rd round of my draft, whether it be 3-1 or 3-11. I want Austin Watkins, and what I think about him is, what I like about him now is, I feel like, right, because once you get a 3rd round range, right, it's way easier to move up into the rookie draft. So if I have 3-12, I'm trying to move up to 3-3, 3-4, and I have no problem giving away my 4th and my 5th, in a 4th next year to get him, because he offers that upside of a startable player in your dynasty roster that you're going to get in the 3rd round. Like, he's a very intriguing prospect that I want a lot of shares of. Even more so, I thought it was a guy that I just came in, I thought I liked, but then I hear you like him. I hear Garrett likes him, and then Jared, you like him as well.
Yeah, and former NFL wide receiver James Jones has him in his top 5. He has him as 5th wide receiver in his draft.
Well, I feel way better about my numbers now.
Yeah, so
never mind. I'm bumping them back up to crazy land.
So what I feel like is, if you're a contender, this is a really good pick in the 2nd round, most likely. Austin Watkins out of UAB, circle his name down. He is an attack in your rookie draft. He is somebody you want to get. But let's see where he ends up in our overall rankings, and let's see where he ends up, more importantly, in other analyst rankings, because
please keep sleeping, people. Please.
I mean, because right now we have a consensus 4, and if James Jones the show, 5 people that are all big on Austin Watkins.
So would Austin Watkins hitting help vindicate you from Sammy Watkins not hitting in any way?
Family ties there.
I mean, dude,
you can't account for screws.
Yeah, Sammy Watkins got more screws in him than porn stars. You know what I mean? Come on, let's be fair here. I mean, the guy was dynamic. Sammy Watkins was one of the best prospects that I saw coming out. I mean, he was dynamic, and then his foot gave way. It's like, you might as well cut that thing off and become a pirate. Arrgh, Sammy. Now you're with Baltimore. Could it get any worse? Yeah, it can. You go sign with Baltimore, Sammy. For the love of cucumbers.
Go get him John Holmes foot.
Oh, look at you, Scurry Louie. Sammy Watkins. Give me Austin Watkins over Sammy Watkins any day of the week right now. Wait, where'd Sammy sign? Baltimore? Shit kebabs.
They're going to open up the offense.
Could have been great, but that's it.
Yep.
So we're going to jump into this Nerd Herd episode. If you are not a Nerd Herd member, you're going to miss us. We're going to talk about Devontae Smith. We're going to talk about Tylan Wallace. We're going to talk about Nico Collins, we mentioned. Dwayne Eskridge. you know the name. What do we think? Hot name and a guy.
Hot name in the dice game?
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, we just posted our nerd score. Our nerd scores are live now on the website for Nerd Herd members. So check those out.
Ooh, even check out our at Dynasty Nerds.
I think my crazy number is still up there too. So if you want to see what the crazy number is, you can go see what it is.
Actually,
I've lowered it to 100 a little bit.
100 out of 100.
You can look at both draft classes combined now too. The 2020 and the 2021.
That's useful information. That's
awesome.
When
we talked about when we were launching this, so it's gonna be nice to see in 4 years to see how accurate you guys are.
That's the best part. Every year this tool will get better because you'll get to see, all the classes stacked up against each other, all the prospects that are similar, different.
Yeah.
Where did they
guys that are already
fun.
in the NFL, how
Yep.
they looked coming in and stuff like that.
And one thing we never say on this podcast ever, or our YouTube channel, is, hey, follow us on Twitter. Like we always mention our Twitter handles. Like I'm at
Right.
Dynasty Rich, you're at Dynasty Matt, you're at
Dynasty
Dynasty
Price.
Price. But we never say follow Dynasty Nerds, which puts out everything we do as
Right.
a site. And right now they're putting out great graphics of the nerd scores with the players. And they look really great as well. So you could also, even if you're not a Nerd Herd member, you can see some of those scores on our Twitter at Dynasty Nerds. But yeah, follow us, join the Nerd Herd, get hit, man. Again, you want to dominate your Dynasty leagues. You're doing a good job listening to this podcast. You're doing a good job watching the YouTube channel. Join the Nerd Herd because listen, we have a new tool coming out here in about the next 30 days or so. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic tool. It's going to be a really fun tool as well. It's going to be free to use, but there's going to be a lot of upside here. But it's going to, what we're going to do is we're going to be raising subscription prices for the Nerd Herd. But if you join now, if you join before we raise those prices, which will be within about the next 30 days, we are not going to change that price for you. You're going to be locked in. So if you ever
grandfathered in.
If you ever
Old
consider
granddaddy.
joining the Nerd Herd, trust me, the price is going to be, you want to join now. We've always made Dynasty Nerds super affordable.
Super
People
affordable.
comment all the time like, why is it so cheap? Why do you guys make it so cheap? It's because we want everybody. We're not like, we just want, our goal here is to grow the game of Dynasty, make everybody better. So we want to make everybody get in. Now, we've built some really good tools. And if you get on there and you get on the GM and you see what we have, we've built some really good stuff. And unfortunately, this stuff costs a lot of money to build, and we've been paying. So we are going to raise the price, but now is the time to get locked in. Because when we do raise the price, if you're a member of the Nerd Herd now, you'll be locked in forever. And we have a really good tool coming up. Not only is it going to help you be a better Dynasty player, but it's going to be a ton of fun. There's not a lot of tools out there that are fun. This will be fun. So get on there, join today. And if you want to check out the Dynasty GM offers you, it's free for 3 days. You can literally use the GM for 3 days, the best Dynasty tool on the market. But remember, you just don't get the GM tool as well. You get the Dynasty Nerds film room where you watch this tape. I really dig in the film room this time of the year, right? And every time I'm watching, I'm like, this is the best film room in the world. Like, we have so much tape, all 22 tape in the film room. You get the Dynasty Nerds scores. You get rankings. You get, what else do you get?
Extra podcast.
Extra podcast. I don't even know because it's so much stuff. It all just
It's hard to
blends in.
keep track of in your brain how much stuff we're giving away.
And we're always
in these
adding. That's the thing.
packages.
When these memberships coming in, we don't go, oh, look at all this money coming in for these memberships. It goes right back into development. We are here to grow the game of Dynasty and make it better for our users. So when these come in and you join, you're reinvested in yourself and in your Dynasty teams. And we are taking that money and reinvesting in the tools that we build. Just like we have a new tool coming out within the next 30 days. It's fantastic. So check it out today. Get to YouTube, all this. And for all those lucky Nerd Herd members, we're going to be right back and going to jump right into Devontae Smith, our consensus number 1 Dynasty rookie wide receiver. Talk to you soon.
Adios.